We are back tackling the Ratatoskr Demonic Beast battle, and there has been a little bit of a team shakeup. Now, obviously, Valenti did just drop, so we are going to be testing her out. She is currently better than Merlin for the shock slot, I will say. So best in slot for shocking. She does what Merlin does, but better, right? She doesn't have necessarily a dead debuff card like Merlin does. So we do have this AoE release, but it is technically a poison because it's an all-target attack for Valenti. And then she also has a shock, right? So doubling up on actual usable debuffs. So we take out Merlin. Now, for that same reason, you'd think that we'd keep King. But in this scenario where you're bringing Valenti, we are now dropping Jelly King. So in the setup with King standard, you have Merlin, you have Melee, you have King, right? So you're getting a 24% basic stat buff, which is pretty good. The fairy thing doesn't really matter that much because you're only running one fairy. So the team is more consistent with Valenti. So you are automatically dropping Merlin, which means you're losing a 7 Deadly Sin characteristic, and you're coming down to 16% basic stats. But because we're running Valenti, we are now gaining a up to 40% attack-related stat buff and up to 20% HP-related stat buff if everyone's different race, and if you remove debuff from your allies every turn, 5 turns. So 40% attack-related, 20% HP-related, and now with LR Glox, 40% for each surviving ally defense-related. That all of those combined is definitely beating out the 16% basic stats. Especially when you consider that defense-related is huge against Rat, whose crits can pretty much kill anybody. This is a pretty strong duo, and overall, I think probably the current best team. The gears are attack crit on Melee, which is the same. HP crit res on everybody else. Liz is still running a recovery rate orb so that she can take advantage of using Tarmiel as a link. Fat King Link for Glox because of that HP buff. Sariel on Melee because he pretty much always crits. So I think Mael is a little better if you can't always crit. And then this Link, I'm not 100% convinced on. I am running Tier because he does have that 60% crit defense boost. And looking at everyone's stats, Valenti's crit defense, pretty laughable. It's only 80. Everyone else above 100 without running crit defense gears. So I think she could benefit a little bit from it. I think past like 150, 155 crit resistance becomes negligible. Just because of the fact that even with triple crit resistance, I think Rat can still crit some units. So Lilia Link I don't think is that good. And then if you have to consider running a DN Link for defense, just run a LR Link, whose defense probably outdoes, Fighter DN. So next is Artifacts. We are still running the Demonic Beast basic stat buff tier card set for that. So that I think is the setup. It's going to cover everything. Attack gears on Sariel, HP gear on everybody else for their links, and we'll jump into it. All right, so we are starting off on floor 1. So we're going to talk about what this guy does again, which we did previously, but new team, new strats. So you're going to be attack sealed, you're going to be ult sealed, you can't do anything. So we are going to start by using what we can, which is a debuff. We have a cute selection between bleed and shock. Now it doesn't matter what you do, the point is that the boss needs to change stumps every single turn. If he doesn't change stumps, you get resealed. So now we have we got a couple extra debuffs. So we're going to try to use one debuff a turn. Unless we have like a super clump where we need to go for a card draw. We're just going to rotate him around. If we can keep moving him and then, start cycling our ults, we should be able to kill him just fine. So here we're going to do bleed. We're going to drop the Glox AoE because it pretty much does nothing. It's essentially useless like that Merlin debuff, but it still does damage. So another debuff puts him to the right. He's going to do his little electroshock. Looks like he's ulting into Liz. She gets stunned. We do have debuffs across the board, which means all creation coming online again. And we get our rank up. So, again, we're going to keep moving my guy around. We got another shock. We could start chucking our attacks out here. Now, you don't have to kill the stumps, but it's better to leave at least one stump alive. Because like we mentioned, he has to switch positions. If there's no stump alive for him to switch to, then you are getting sealed. So that's what we're going to try to keep in mind. It looks like the stumps are also relatively tanky. But we got him again on the left. We got our Liz ult. We can cycle that just fine. I think we can go for a kill here. Yep. We're going to merge on Valenti. Valenti's looking a little low. She's been taking a brute of some single targets. We haven't been able to heal up all the way until now, at least for a little bit. So we cycle the Liz ult. I'm assuming this combo is probably killing. Yeah, no problem there. That's actually overkill. I probably could have dropped the other Valenti AoE, but that's fine. So phase 2, damage cap 40%, I believe. Kind of a passive from I'm not sure which log it is, but the idea here is that we're gonna be careful when we AoE, right? Because he does apply a buff. When he gets to 6, I think he gets 2 per AoE. Yeah, okay. Demonic enhancement. So if he gets up to 6, it turns into an attack-related buff. So we need to buff remove with Liz's AoE, or Flood, because it's the only thing that can buff strip here. So we basically AoE him twice, and then we buff strip. Unless you can single target. I don't think a single target applies demonic enhancement, in which case, you know, you're free to do. We have the melee single target attacks. Got a gold one. That should be just fine. We're going to cycle Liz ult again, and we're just going to full send. This should probably kill. Because we're only sending in 1 AoE, we don't need to buff strip. It'll only put him at 4. Fortunately, we don't even have another Liz buff removal, so hopefully this can kill. Oh, it doesn't kill. So that's putting him at a 4? Oh, he didn't get it from the... He didn't get that time. Oh, right, the Glox is a single target. The single target, I think, Ruin. We had no debuffs on him. Also, his ult is 3/6, so my Glox does not hit very hard. We can cycle his ult yet again. We have a melee single target. We'll get a merge on that bleed. We'll have pretty decent draw, so I think we'll go ahead and do that. This will kill. Oh, I could do the silver and not burn the gold, and then just merge Glox normally, which will work out just fine. 247 on the heal, and then I'll wipe him out. All right, so phase 3. He does start sealing again. So you want to make sure you're transitioning with a debuff, which we did, right? We have the Glox bleed. We need to move him around to every stump in order to remove his damage cap or damage reduction. And then we can kill. But if he moves to the left stump, he evades ranged attacks. If he moves to the right stump, he evades melee attacks. Again, his movement is dictated by debuffs. Now, if you didn't know, you can check all your cards. You'll see a sword icon or a bow icon that will tell you if it's ranged or not. Okay? Should be pretty simple. That's day 1 stuff right there. So, it does hit us with an all stat down ×2. So we do get crit here. But our crit defense, like we saw, is pretty decent. So it doesn't do too much damage. We can cycle Liz ult. I believe Shock puts him to the left, Poison puts him to the middle, and Bleed puts him to the right. So we don't need to bleed him. We still need to shock him. We still need to poison him. In this case, we don't have a dedicated debuff, but we do have that Valenti AoE. So that is going to turn into a poison. As you can see, the left stump is dodging that just fine. That'll put him back to the middle. So now we need to draw Shock. Boom. Streamer YouTube luck right there, baby. We got the Shock. We can put him to the left. I don't think he loses the damage reduction until the start of his turn. So I think what we'll do is just chuck the debuffs and see what happens. The order does matter here because it needs to be the latest debuff. That's what he likes to look at. Especially when you consider that there are scenarios where you can only have 1 debuff at a time, in which case only the latest one is going to matter. So thought about ulting, but just remembered that the poison would apply because it is, I think, our ult's AoE. Actually, I forget. Doesn't matter. We want to shock them. Yeah, so it's at the start of his turn that he loses the damage reduction. So now he's on the dodge, the range evasion log, so we keep that in mind. Recycle his ults, and then we just kind of go for the kill. Even with the double all stat down, there were a couple crits that he actually missed, which is kind of funny. So, what can we do? What can we do? We can't get our Liz ult back, so I think we save it because he's not ulting, so we don't have too much damage missing. We could full send the rest of these cards. The melee ult down, pretty good. Once you get the damage reduction gone, you know it doesn't matter. Oh wait, is he gonna kill? Holy shit, he actually almost died. That would have sucked because we didn't Liz ult. Oh, good thing he's on the evasion log. That's actually perfectly planned. Poisoned, which we did do. That AoE brings him right back to the middle. As I was saying, killing the logs doesn't matter too much here. I would say you could kill the center log if it's an accident. No, I'm not going to say that. I would say don't kill the logs here, because you might cuck yourself. If he ends up on the ranged evasion or the melee evasion, depending on your hand, you know, that might suck. It's probably best to keep him in the middle, because then he doesn't have any evasion. So, yeah, rotate him, kill the sides if you have to, keep him in the middle. There's no evasion. That's going to be floor 1. We're at full HP, so it's a pretty easy clear. So if you guys liked it, drop a thumb, maybe sub if you're not, and I'll see you in the next one.